Hi, it's Matt with Artista Music. One of the most important things that you can do early on when you're learning how to play guitar is how to tune it. By being in tune, when you're practicing or playing a song, you're making sure that you sound correct. So why is it so important to learn how to tune your guitar so early on? Well, imagine yourself practicing and you're doing everything correctly, but if your guitar isn't in tune, it'll sound something like this. So, no matter how you practice, it will never sound right. Not to mention, if you ever go over a friend's house or any other colleague's house and you pick up their instrument, you have to know how to tune it yourself. So this is a really important skill for you to have early on. This way, when you practice and when you play songs, you're going to sound your best. Now, there are a few methods on how you can actually tune your guitar. One of them is using an electronic chromatic tuner. The other one is using some apps on your phone. There are even some that actually go on your headstock and measure the vibrations. Those are all great, but what if you don't have those readily available? There's a method called relative tuning that every guitarist can do, and I'm going to teach you how to do it. Now, before we dive into how to tune the guitar, I first want to show you what the tuning pegs actually do with the guitar. So our tuning pegs are how we adjust the tune or the tension that's in the strings. If I twist, let's say, counterclockwise or turning up, the string itself will turn up in pitch. If I turn it clockwise or down, the tension is released and the pitch goes down. So what is relative tuning? Relative tuning means that your strings are tuned relative to the tune of the previous string. Great example. I can play the E string. If I tune the fifth string or the A string, that A string is going to be tuned according to how the sixth string was tuned. Now, just for the purposes of this lesson, my low E string is already in tune. But what if your low E string isn't in tune? Honestly, the easiest way is just through experience. As time goes on, you're training your ear to actually listen for the tune of that sixth string. Now, is it going to be perfect? No, but you're going to be within a comfortable ballpark. After all, with relative tuning, you are going to have your guitar in tune, but it may be a little flat, which is a little low, or a little bit sharp. Or if your ear's trained well enough, you'll be dead on. So first I'm going to show you where to place your finger to tune the fifth string. So to tune the fifth string from the sixth string, we're going to take our first finger and place that on the fifth fret of the sixth string. Go ahead and play that note. That is an A note, which, if you remember from our string names and numbers video, is the note that the open fifth string makes. In a later lesson, we'll go over how I know that that is an A note. But for right now, put your first finger on the fifth fret. Now that we're on the fifth fret of the sixth string, let's compare our open fifth string. So we're first going to play the note that we're making on the sixth string, and then play the open fifth string. Let's compare. Here's that picking motion that I'm doing when I'm comparing the note that I'm making on the sixth string and the open fifth string. You want to try to play them fairly quick, but not too quick. You want to hear the difference. Now that open fifth string is severely tuned down, so we need to turn the fifth string up. Now this next part's going to be a little bit of a dance. Let me just show you how I tune my guitar. I first play the note that I'm making, and then I play the next open string. I let that open string ring out, and then I make my adjustments. So here's what that looks like. Why am I letting it ring out? I don't want to stop that string from making a sound because I want to hear the adjustments that I'm making. I want to hear if I'm going too high or if I'm going too low. So let's take a closer look at how we actually tune the guitar. So I first play both notes. Remember, we're doing one at a time. First the note that we're making, and then the open fifth string. I let the fifth string ring out, and since it's low, I tune it up. I check my work. Still too low, so I need to make a big adjustment. Don't be afraid to make big adjustments. The string is not going to pop off. Still too low, make an adjustment. You don't want to go so fast, you just want to do a gradual turn. Now listen to that sound. You think it's too low or too high? I accidentally tuned the fifth string up too high. Now, force of habit might say, let's just tune it down to its proper place, but you don't want to do that. Why not? The guitar strings themselves have so much tension. When I'm tuning the string up, I'm increasing that tension. When I tune the guitar or the string down, I'm releasing that tension. When I release that tension, I might be causing some slack within the gears when we're talking about the machine heads. So what you want to do is to always tune up. Now, if you'll notice that my fifth string, I tune that up a little too high. So the first thing I have to do is tune it much flatter and then tune up to the proper note. This way, I'm keeping proper tension. So just remember, always be tuning up, not tuning down. So now I'm going to make some fine adjustments. I first play the note that I'm making, and then I play the next open string. So I'm going to tune this down. Now I can hear that that's much flatter. And I make small adjustments. One more little adjustment. One more small adjustment. Here's a little bit of a pro tip. You may not be able to hear it through this video, but when you tune your guitar and you play those notes simultaneously, you're actually going to hear and feel a waveform. For example, and I know it's not necessarily the most technical term, but when I played those strings, when I was tuned a little bit too high, I heard a little bit of a whoosh, 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 and I felt that through the guitar. That's letting you know that the vibrations that the strings are making are not in sync. So just remember, the tighter that they are, the better that you're in tune. Now let's talk about tuning the other strings. So now that I've fine-tuned the fifth string, I double-check my work. Remember, we first play the note that we're making, and then we play the next open string. Now, relative tuning isn't going to be an exact science, but it's supposed to get you in a very comfortable ballpark. So now that my fifth string is in tune, let's go ahead and check the fourth string. I simply take my first finger, keep it on the fifth fret, but I'm moving to the fifth string. Go ahead and play that note. That is the note that the open fourth string makes, which is a D. We're going to use the same method that we used previously. So we're going to play the note that we're making, and then the open fourth string. Now the fourth string is severely tuned down, so we need to make some big adjustments up. So we're going to play the note that we're making on our fifth string, and then play the open fourth string. We let that note ring out, and we make our adjustments up. Now I can make a big adjustment because it's really tuned down. Still tuned down, so we're going to go ahead and make another big adjustment up. Still tuned down, big adjustment up. We're getting closer. Still tune up. Ah, we're almost there, but what do you think? It's still tuned a little bit down, so we want to make a small adjustment up. This is where you make fine adjustments. You don't want to do too big of movements. And that sounds about on. So I'll double check my work with the note that I'm making on the 5th fret of the 5th string, and then also the open 4th string. Sounds pretty on. Now we go ahead and take our 1st finger, keep it on the 5th fret, and move it to the 4th string. Go ahead and play that note. Remember, our 1st finger is on the 5th fret of the 4th string. That is a G note that's made when you play the open 3rd string. So let's go ahead and compare this to the open 3rd string. Once again, the 3rd string is severely tuned down, so now we need to make some big adjustments. So you're going to play the note that you're making with your 1st finger, and then play the open 3rd string. Letting that 3rd string ring out, I go ahead and I move over this time to the other side of my headstock. So just a little side note about headstocks. Take a look at mine. My last 3 strings, the 4, 5, and 6 strings, their tuning pegs are on the top. Now I call this the top because, well, look at how the guitar is sitting with me. This is on the top side. The last 3, or the first 3 strings, the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd strings, are on the bottom side. Now, a lot of electrics will have all the tuning pegs in one line. So you're going to turn them the same ways for each tuning peg. Now, the same rules apply for a guitar with this type of headstock. But because we're seeing the bottom tuning pegs from a different perspective, you're going to physically turn them in the opposite direction. Let me show you what I mean. Now, when I adjusted the 5th and the 4th strings to tune down, I had to turn clockwise. To tune up, I went counterclockwise. Well, the physical motion, let's say we're going to tune up for that 3rd string, is going to be different. So let me go ahead and compare the note that I'm making on the 5th fret of the 4th string and the open 3rd string. I'm actually going to twist this clockwise. Let me play that one more time so you can hear the difference. So once again, we're playing the first note that we're making here on the 5th fret of the 4th string, and then playing the open 3rd string. Still tuned down, so let's make an adjustment up. Let's listen again. And that's in great tune. And the great thing is we tuned up. Remember, we want to keep tension in the strings, so you always want to be tuning up, not tuning down. Now, you've noticed the pattern so far when we've been tuning our guitar. We started on the 5th fret of the 6th string, then we went to the 5th fret of the 5th string, then the 5th fret of the 4th string. But to tune the 2nd string, we're actually going to make an adjustment. So let's move over to the 3rd string and slide back just 1 fret. So your 1st finger should be on the 4th fret of the 3rd string. One more time. We were previously on the 5th fret of the 4th string. Now we're on the 4th fret of the 3rd string. Go ahead and play that note. That is the B note that the open 2nd string should make when it's in tune. Let's go ahead and compare. One more time. Now this one's a little bit different. The 2nd string seems to be tuned too high. So let's go ahead and make the proper adjustments. Now this one's going to be great practice for what we talked about earlier, how we don't want to tune down to the tuning of our string, we want to tune up. So since this string, the second string, is tuned too high, we're going to tune it flatter or lower than the correct note. And then we're going to make our adjustments by tuning up. Let me show you. So let's play that note we're making on the 4th fret of the 3rd string, and then play the open 2nd string. We're going to tune this down. So now I can hear just a slight little variation in its pitch. You can hear the 2nd string is a little bit flat, nothing too drastic, but this gives me the opportunity to tune up. So let me go ahead and play the note that I'm making and then the open 2nd string. Okay, let's play it again. Now we're in tune. Now to move on to tune the 1st string, we're going to go back on the 5th fret on the 2nd string. So now you should be on the 5th fret of the 2nd string with your 1st finger and play that note. That is the E note that the 1st string makes. So let's compare the two. Oof, that one is really tuned flat. So let's make our adjustments. Let's check our work. Still tuned very low. Still tuned low. And that sounds like we're spot on. So now that we've gone through and tuned our guitar, because we've made such big adjustments, let's go through it one more time just to double check our work. Now this time, you don't have to go so slow. You can actually go at a normal pace. Let me show you. So you'll notice right there, after we made those adjustments, that my 5th string sort of got out of tune. And that's okay, that happens sometimes, especially when you get brand new strings. So we just tune it up just a little bit. Much better. When you go through all of your strings, you have to double check your work and make the small little adjustments. Now, are you going to tune a string and then all of a sudden it goes dramatically flat? No. If that happens, that means there's something wrong with either your string post or your bridge. Or it could be a manufacturing defect with your string altogether. So that's relative tuning. Now I want to show you real quick on how some of those popular chromatic tuners actually work. Now remember how we talked about relative tuning isn't an exact science. There's going to be variations in your tuning pitch. That's okay because remember we're relying on our ear. As the time goes on, when you start practicing and playing more, you'll start to develop a guitar player's ear to where you can hear those variations. Now if you really want to get some fine tune or perfect tuning, you can use a chromatic tuner. Lots of stores have all sorts of different manufacturers and different types. So for example, the one that I use here uses a color coordinated kind of a guide. Let me show you. I simply turn it on, and when I play a string, it'll give me color coordination. Green will mean I'm in perfect tuning, and red means I'm not. And a lot of times that red will indicate if you're too flat, which means you're tuned too low, or if you're too sharp, or if you're tuned too high. So these are great tools to have when you want to get some fine tuning and making sure that you are in perfect tune. Now when using a chromatic tuner, you don't want to have it too far away from you. You also want to be in an area where there's not that much noise pollution. What I tend to do is take the chromatic tuner and rest it on the leg that my guitar body is actually sitting on. This way you have clear sound, and if there is background noise, it'll be drowned out by the sound of your guitar. So that's how we use the relative tuning method to tune our guitar. Remember, it's not an exact science, but it's supposed to get you in a great ballpark to where you can start practicing and playing. You can use all the other tools, like your smartphone, a chromatic tuner, or even ones that go on the headstock to measure the vibrations to get yourself in a much better tuning. The point is, you need to know how to do it by ear. You're training yourself as a musician to listen to how all the different notes make sound and what their appropriate frequencies are. Now, don't be afraid of making those big adjustments with your strings. The strings break, they're not going to fly up and hit you, so don't be afraid of that. If your guitar is severely out of tune, make those big adjustments. But remember, go back and check your work. Tuning is all about patience. As long as you practice patience, you should be fine. I'll see you in the next lesson.